Hi, welcome. Today is part 4 in this series. So, let's get into it. Cool. So, I'm Allison Sabula and I'm the founder and a consultant at 10 Collective. And at 10 Collective, our mission is to create caring communities and workplaces. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is collaboration and positive regard. This is part of our employee wellness wheel. So each week for 8 weeks, we're going over each one of the little realms on the wheel. Um, and we want to help you create a positive work environment any way we can, whether that's giving you resources that you need, or you can bring us in to work with you to help improve your employee experience. So let's get into this one. We're going to do a regulation activity. We're going to talk about employee wellness, collaboration, and positive regard, our assessment tool. I'm going to offer some tips, and then I'm going to go over how 10 Collective can help. So hope you can stay the whole time. It'll go a half an hour. So this one was one that I saw at a charter school in Boston. So I did my grad school in public health at Boston University, and we visited a trauma-informed charter school. And I'm blanking on what it was called, but they had this regulation station for kids in the classroom that had this infinity symbol on the wall that kids could trace with their finger. And so I have tried this out as an adult. And so what you can do, maybe if you have like a notebook that you can grab and create your own figure eight, or if you're seeing this on my screen, you could try it. But doing the actual tactile activity, like with your finger. So try right now, if you have like a pen and paper, to draw an infinity symbol on your paper, or you can imagine one, but take your finger and go ahead and trace your finger along this shape and focus on what that feels like. To me, doing that alone feels very regulating. And then there's kind of this added activity of breathing in and out depending on where you are on the infinity loop. So let's just do a couple breaths together. So go ahead and put your finger in the middle of this shape. You could do it in the air as well, but I think it's nice to feel something with your skin. So breathe in, and then when you get back to the center, breathe out. Really forces you to pay attention to your body and your breath at the same time. So that's a great little activity so that we feel safe and calm and ready to learn. So this is a slide that I have in all of these just because employee mental health right now is really in bad shape all across the United States. And if you work in the US, and honestly for people who work outside of the US as well, then I think you've probably seen this shift happen over time where all of a sudden a lot of us are feeling a lot of mental health constraints at work and not feeling very supported. So it's become a real issue. So, if you want to get a copy of our free tool, just go to tend-collective.com and it's right there on the homepage, and you can download a PDF. And feel free to use this as much as you want. So you can take it yourself. You can also administer it to your team and collect results. If you want, you can hire us to administer it and create a report with the results. It's better to have a neutral third party. So be in touch about that if that's something you're interested in. So here's the wellness wheel created by our wonderful graphic designer, Mindy Atwood. And so far we've already gone through psychological safety, structure, role definition, and authority, meaning and productivity. And so now we're here on week 4, which is collaboration and positive regard. And we'll do, over the next 4 weeks, we'll do these 4. So far we've looked at psychological safety, which is feeling included, safe to learn, safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo. Psychologically safe teams are more innovative, they're more engaged. We're going to talk about engagement today, and they retain employees for longer periods. So um, we feel safe when we have structure. We went over that a couple of weeks ago. So when we know what we're responsible for, which tasks to do, um, and which decisions that we have the authority to make. So this week's questions, and what you can do is follow along on this activity and score it. So on a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is low and 5 is a lot, go ahead and make a score for each one of these items on a scale from 1 to 5. So I feel that my contributions are valued by my team members. Number 2, I receive constructive feedback that helps me improve my work. 3, my team communicates effectively to accomplish our goals. 4, there is a strong sense of trust and mutual respect among my colleagues. 5, I feel supported by my colleagues when facing challenges at work. And when you download the PDF of our tool, we have a scoring guide that will tell you what your different scores mean. So we looked at Jared and Eliza last week. So they're back. Unfortunately, Jared has taken a job that is in the culture of fear. And Eliza is doing a little better. She's taken a job that's in the culture of trust. And so Jared has started a job at Family Services Incorporated, and his boss calls him at all hours and checks his team status to make sure that he's just always at his desk. Jared feels like his ideas get taken during, at meetings. He feels micromanaged, and there's a lot of gossip on the team, and he doesn't quite know who to trust. So he's feeling pretty stressed all the time. How many people have had this work culture? Yeah, I think many of us have experienced a culture of fear. And so Eliza has started a job at Child Health Corp, and so her boss has a regular review, like weekly scheduled for Eliza's work, and success is determined by the work being done and the quality of the work, not the hours spent at the desk. There's no monitoring happening to make sure they're on Teams. There's no random phone calls. And so Eliza feels trusted, seen, and supported, and therefore she often engages with her fellow employees, and they come up with really good and innovative ideas together. So because she feels really safe and supported by her boss and trusted, she's able to engage with her employees. How many of you have had this type of work environment? Think about whether you've had something like that. I've had both. I've had a lot of good places and bad ones, and of course, the good places that's where we come up with the best ideas. We feel better. We work better together. So this is a really simplistic model of the brain. And so essentially, and you've probably seen me use also the Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. So the cortex is the outside of the brain, which is represented by the fingers, and the limbic system is the thumb, and the brainstem is here. And so the brainstem is really related to making sure that we stay alive, we and are able to breathe and walk, things we don't have to think about. And so in the hand model, it's nice to have this visual that you can think of it pretty often, which is Dan Siegel calls it flipping your lid. The part of our brain that's responsible for executive functioning, memory, analysis, all these types of things is the cortex. And so if we're feeling really, really stressed or triggered, then this part of the cortex is no longer integrating with the rest of our brain, or it's offline, and our amygdala takes over, or we have a fight or flight response. And all of a sudden, we can't be our best at work. At work, we really need our cortex to function. We need to be able to problem solve. We need to be creative. We need to be able to engage with others. And we can't do that if we're feeling really afraid and triggered. So the fight or flight response is supposed to keep us safe from danger. Um, we evolved so that if we encounter danger, our body would mobilize our sympathetic nervous system to get us out of harm's way. And so now we have this system that really flies into action really quickly. But we often have a lot of modern day stressors that are not dangerous in terms of life or death. So if we're at work, there's been funny memes about, can my brain, not please not go into fight or flight when it's an email. um, but there's a lot of reasons when you learn about trauma informed care, both personal and from our childhood, but also from our adult experiences, that cause us to have a really significant response to minorly stressful things. Um, so we maybe had a childhood that had a lot of stress in it, chronic stress, and this has now conditioned us to go into a fight or flight response, flipping our lid and losing our ability to focus on our work, to remember our work, to work together as a team, to reach out and feel that we can trust other people. All of that is offline when we are feeling triggered. So we may have brought in some trauma from childhood to where we're constantly on the lookout for threats, which is called hypervigilance. So a lot of us bring hypervigilance into our work environments, our adult work environments, and we don't always have the tools to be able to label what's going on in our brain. And pretty soon we're kind of identifying different people that we work with as enemies when we're constantly in this state where it's our amygdala hijacking our system rather than feeling like we feel safe enough to be socially engaged and collaborative. Additionally, there may be actual stress in the workplace, and we have talked about that. Bree Twombly, my colleague here at 10 Collective, did a really great webinar about how we can organize around trauma um, and create a really traumatizing workplace itself. And so that may be a combination of having leaders who are bringing their childhood trauma in with them and their hypervigilance, along with then creating an entire workplace around that trauma and stress, and then continuing to either create new trauma for colleagues and employees, as well as really triggering the very worst possible stress response that we could have. So, workplaces that are run by a manager with severe unhealed trauma may become oriented around chaos, urgency, fear, stress, distrust, and a lack of structure. And again, I really highly recommend Bree's deep dive, which is on our YouTube channel. So I really like this graphic, and there's the link to the piece of research here. Now, the brain is really um, uh, the brain is complicated. These kind of emotional systems are complicated, and so this is something I found that is just one piece of this study that I think can really help us understand how stress from childhood can make its way into the workplace. So we're born into a family where we need maternal and paternal support or some sort of caregiver support. It could be grandparents, it could be foster parents, and it could, of course, be two moms, two dads, all sorts of different combinations. But then, we need consistent caregiving that's close, warm, and well, there's good communication. And this allows us to have our own um, health and a positive regard for ourselves so that we can show up with warmth and consistency and self-acceptance for ourselves, which gives us emotional stability and informs our relationship quality. So you can kind of take a second to look at all of these things. But when there's trauma in childhood and over here on the right side gets disrupted and we don't have this self-acceptance, instead we have a really insecure way of relating to ourselves, then our emotional stability is impacted. So we're having these constant emotional swings, which look different for everybody. Some people have these very externalizing emotional swings where you can really see it. They want to fight and argue. But if someone's emotional instability shows up as freezing or going inward, we often don't label that as being emotionally unstable, but it actually is. It actually is the same, pretty much the same thing. But the rest of us can't see it. And that may be someone who tends to ruminate or has depression, but it's also very harmful. And then this impacts the way that we're able to show up with the people in our lives, including our ability to have unconditional positive regard for people around us. And I'll get into what that is. Um, so um, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about with stress and the brain, but and let me see, did I put this one? Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to that one. So there's essentially a couple of things I'm talking about, which is bringing in our childhood trauma or having past workplace traumas that impact our ability to show up and both feel safe and create safety and engagement with the people around us. And there's the creation and the existence in a work environment that is chronically stressful and chronically unsafe. So both of those things could be happening at once. Um, and so um, social withdrawal and aggression are typical consequences of experiencing um, or having experienced high and persistent stress levels. So, again, stress is supposed to help us be motivated to complete tasks or keep us alive or get us excited to do anything. Stress is actually a really good thing. But when you have high and persistent stress levels, then that goes into the realm of toxic stress. Um, and Nadine Burke Harris, the former Surgeon General of California, her TED Talk, she does a great job of talking about toxic stress, also in her book. And so this is then just constant high and persistent stress levels where your body starts to break down and your relationships suffer. And so this is studied and known that as we encounter more stress or are feeling the impacts of past traumatic stress, then we're not able to be as social. Okay. So, from a developmental perspective, early stressors impose an increasing pattern of dysfunctional social behavior, progressing from asociality to hostility and to anti-sociality. So, there's a lot to go into on this topic, but this is just a little piece for today's really quick overview. So, what can we do knowing that we're not going to be able, and right? Most of us work with other people. That's the whole thing about working is that we have to do it with others. Um, what do we do? What do we do to make sure that we're not feeling this toxic level of stress? So, we recommend doing an organizational assessment to start. This can kind of help you understand where people are feeling stress and from whom. It may tend to lead back to like a certain couple of people. And again, if you have a leader on your team with a lot of trauma that they have not healed, you are probably going to have a fear based workplace. And, Harvard Business Review writes about this all the time. It is in your best interest to fire your sociopaths. And we do talk to organizations all the time that are like, well, it really does come down to this one person. We have a lot of compassion for these types of fear-based leaders because we know that they experienced a lot of trauma that they haven't dealt with. And so, however, they are bringing your organization down and probably causing a lot of stress and chaos for everyone involved. So, if you can identify some fear-based leaders and you want to make sure you get them help or let them go or take away their management tasks. And so we also recommend increasing communication and conflict resolution skills. We recommend training employees on how to self-regulate. So just like the infinity exercise that we all did together, we here at 10 Collective, we have so many self-regulation activities. We would love to help your team learn how to do that. Because again, when we're feeling unsafe and then the threat brain comes online and we're seeing tigers everywhere, everything becomes a threat, including our colleagues. So when we can self regulate and notice my fear brain is coming online, let me make sure I don't blame anyone else on the team. This can really help improve team culture. And then it's good to hire leaders who are good at helping people feel safe and seen. Let's talk a little bit about unconditional positive regard. So this is just a little graphic I found. I didn't make this. Unconditional positive regard is letting a person know that they're accepted and valued no matter what, even if they are flawed. It's a kind of funny way to say it because it's like even if no, we all have flaws. We still respect and care about them. So it refers to a situation where someone continues to see someone in a positive light, regardless of the situation. It can be a powerful sign of love, trust, and commitment to another person. And we tend to not do so well on commitment in the US. And I think this is another big piece of having our fear-based work cultures is that if employees can lose their job at any moment without any reason, this tends to then create a culture in which employees are very fearful. Am I going to lose my job today? I don't know. I don't have a contract. There's no safety net. If I lose my job, I won't be able to pay my bills. So it's going to be really hard to foster a culture with unconditional positive regard when we don't even have commitment at the workplace level, really, or any of the social policies that would help people feel that there's a commitment for their safety. So these are big cultural pieces as well that, of course, not every workplace can tackle. But I don't want you to feel crazy. Like, why do I feel so unsafe all the time? There are a few things that are out of our control, and but however, if we are aware of them, we can become more involved politically to make sure that we're showing up and making that change happen on a societal level. But unconditional positive regard can help boost a person's self esteem, self belief, and their ability to form stable and trusting relationships. So there's some examples here. Letting a child know that you know they're a good person even when they misbehave. Um, Letting your wife know you will be by her side even when you're arguing, um, etc. And these are kind of personal examples. So at work, um, this would manifest as, so and so didn't send me that email that they said they were going to, but I am going to trust that it's not because they hate me or because they don't respect me or because um, they always do a bad job at work, but rather trusting that maybe they got really stressed, or maybe they forgot, or maybe I really needed to remind them, but that really trust that no matter what, they are actually committed to showing up as their best self and doing the best possible. And when we can all treat each other like that, well, they did make a mistake, but I trust that they're trying their very, very best. Then we all treat ourselves each other like this, then we're creating a culture where we trust each other. And of course, there's other pieces of that. So if you do have someone that continually violates trust, continually doesn't show up on time, misses deadlines, doesn't seem to be remorseful or accountable, of course, that's an issue that you will want to take care of. But what can happen in a hostile work environment is that all these little moments of trust break down where we don't believe that people are doing their best, and we start to grumble, and then when you lose that trust and belief in someone, that tends to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is where a lot of breakdown can happen, but this type of culture with positive regard can also be built. So um, there's a lot that can be done with creating a positive a culture of positive regard, um, in terms of um, really cultivating this positive communication with each other. And especially, and this is what I've seen working with companies, is that when there's no process in place to deal with conflicts that are going to come up, then you're going to really see a breakdown in this, because people are saying, well, I was really let down by the events team because they passed off this project to us and then they kind of disappeared, but they weren't clear with us on the communication. We're really upset. But there wasn't a process to resolve that communication. So instead, that just festered. And that is leading to, well, now I'm not going to trust them in the future. So, see, this is how this breakdown in positive regard starts. There needs to be some sort of process that people can rely on in place, that I know when I'm feeling that the trust has been broken, I know who to go to, and how to resolve this. So these are all things that your team can learn how to do. And there's actually truly no reason they should be intuitive. So if you're like, gosh, how come I don't know how to do this or create this at work? I don't know where you would have learned it. So you can start now. There's not really high cost of doing nothing. So every time a caseworker leaves an agency, the loss costs the agency anywhere from 30 to 200% of the former employee's annual salary. High turnover in the child welfare system negatively impacts not only the agency, but also the children and families that you serve. One study cited found that youth were more reluctant to trust others as a result of losing a caseworker, which can negate years of work that your organization spent building trust. So it's not just a matter of serving your employees. Of course, we want employees to feel their best, but this is also impacting the families and the children and the communities that you're serving. So, work stressors are a leading cause of chronic illness, contributing to burnout, depression, um, injuries, any chronic illness you can really think of, actually. And there are more than 120,000 deaths caused by work stress every year, making it the fifth leading cause of death in the United States. And that's 2023 data. So, a lot of um, a lot of data shows that paying your employees more will do a lot to improve mental health. But at 10 Collective, like, we know what your budgets look like, and what's available to you. And so we know that paying employees more, who often are living paycheck to paycheck, is not an option for every agency or organization. And so that's why we've thought about what else can you do? Because making sure that your employees feel safe and seen and heard and valued, and that they can rely on having a certain structure when they come into work, these are all pieces of our wellness wheel, can go a long way when you can't just start, doubling everyone's salary. So having the right leader can really make an impact. If you're watching this right now, I encourage you to decide that you're going to be the one who asks for change at your workplace. And if you need help figuring out how to do that, please feel free to reach out to me personally, and I can give you tips on how to be the one who asks for something big at work. So, a couple of resources and tips for every budget here before we wind down. We recommend starting with an audit. So, again, you can use our self assessment tool, or there's a lot of great tools online, but you could have someone who already works at your organization do an audit. Um, One tool that I taught in depth a couple months ago was nonviolent communication. And this strategy works so well at work. I have used it at work my entire career and have had brilliant results. And so I actually already taught this technique in a past video. So you can go to our YouTube channel. If you go to our website, we have links to all these resources. But this is a really nice tool that you can use to help improve communication at work. Medium cost is to train employees and managers and supervisors. So a training is typically where you could have anywhere from 5 to 100 people join and learn in that kind of format, like a Zoom meeting. We also do in-person trainings. Um, and employees can learn communication and conflict resolution skills, and also self-regulation skills. All people management skills are completely learnable. I love working with managers because there is so much that can be learned and practiced that can make a huge impact on your workplace. And when your leaders can create a safe work environment, employees will feel that they can work together better. And high cost would be the one-on-one coaching, but you will see the biggest change. So if your organization can afford this, especially for leaders who manage quite a few people, people have personal histories that create these blocks and these limiting beliefs, and coaching just gets right in there to identify what those are to create the biggest change. So we would love to help you at 10 Collective. We do organizational assessments. We can do hiring and job description help. We do manager coaching, leadership development, and we have a training series that we can do on trauma informed care, psychological safety, communication, conflict resolution, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other related topics. So, um, we can also offer some more traditional public health and social services type products. So we can create educational content. We can do community needs assessments. We can help you with program creation, implementation, and evaluation, grant writing. We can do literature reviews. And then we can also do community engagement and management. So at 10 Collective, we know that being able to rest within a bubble of care in our workplaces gives us so much strength and resilience. And you can just take a moment right now to imagine a time that you felt really safe and cared for at work and how that rippled out into the rest of your life. So it really, really makes a difference because we are at work 40 hours a week. It's better if we feel safe. So please reach out. You can reach me at Allison at 10-collective.com. You can also fill out our form on our website. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. But be in touch. We would love to help your organization. We're having a great time working with organizations since we were founded in February, and we would really love to help all of your employees feel cared for, as well as the populations you serve. So thanks so much for tuning in.